Hello and welcome to the Freedom Frequency Podcast. I'm your host, Kaya, energy healer, psychic channel, and spiritual mentor for women who are ready to ditch the spiritual rulebook, release the pressure and overwhelm, and let go of all that comparison that makes you feel like what you're doing isn't enough. In this podcast, I'm going to share bits of my journey with you, as well as my wisdom and knowledge to show you that spirituality gets to be something that works for you and not something that you work for. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hi, love. Today's episode is going to be short and sweet, hopefully. We all know that I love to chat. I wanted to do an episode on my personal spiritual practices day to day. I do get some questions about this sometimes, especially when I post in my Instagram stories saying like I'm doing meditation or the Akashic Records or something like that. And people are like, oh, do you do this every day? Or like, what else do you do? What's your ritual? So I thought I would just create a podcast episode kind of breaking down what my, spiritual practices behind the scenes look like. Just for curiosity and all you nosy people. Just like me, I'm so nosy. But first I just want to make like a few notes. Who would I be if I didn't make disclaimers? So first off, I just want to say that like oh my gosh, tongue tied. Okay. These are the things that I do, and I'm just sharing with you like what I do right now, but that doesn't mean these are the things you should be doing too. So like I want to share with you, I want to give you like behind the scenes, I want to be open, give you some ideas and that kind of thing. But I don't want you to like get out your notepad right now and write down like everything that I'm saying about what I do and then just like copy it, because I do think that we all need to develop our own practices. Like, yes, there are some things that I'll get into that I feel like we should all be doing like every day. But there's also just like, yeah, like everyone needs to have their own thing, and like copying someone else's ritual, like sure, it may work for you and that's amazing if it does, and like there's nothing wrong with copying someone else's stuff like with that, but also not every modality works for everyone, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So like say like EFT tapping works really great for you and it's like one of your favorite modalities and it works so well, but like maybe for me it doesn't. Like that's okay. So, and also different things work in different seasons and for different reasons. So it's like, yeah, I'll probably get into that a little bit more in the episode, just like different things I use at different times. But I just wanted to give that little disclaimer and also say that like intentionality behind your practice is everything. So it's not so much about what you're doing, but it's like the energy you're doing it in. So like your spiritual practice shouldn't be just like a checklist of like, okay, I did this. Okay, I'm done my spiritual practice for the day. Check, check, check. It should be more of like, what makes you feel good and like the intention you're putting behind it of like, yeah, this is working. This is making me feel good. And like knowing that it's actually like moving the needle for you instead of just like, okay, I did like, the 5-step morning routine ritual from TikTok or whatever. Must be good. So I just wanted to give that little disclaimer. So into the juice. What does my spiritual practice look like? It changes all the time. So there are some things that I do every day that I do also think that everyone should be doing every day, if I'm being honest. Yeah, like I'm just going to say that. So every day, non-negotiable for me and hopefully for you too is clearing my energy, like clearing my energy field, clearing my body, just feeling into where in my body do I feel tension, breathing into it, allowing that tension to leave, where do I feel stagnant energy, just kind of doing like a clearing just to kind of come back to my own energy, like where am I holding on to energies that aren't mine, maybe a little bit of like anger or something, like what's coming up. So I do a little bit of clearing and I always do some grounding as well. So for me, the clearing usually is like kind of like just like a visualization or like some deep breaths or something. It can be like something really simple. Like I'm just going to take 3 deep breaths and set the intention that it's clearing if that's all you have time for. But it could also be like a whole 10, 20-minute meditation if you want it to be, right? So really just allow yourself to like take these things and make them your own, because my biggest like philosophy basically is that spirituality gets to work for you and you don't work for it. So like, what practices work for you? Like what works into your schedule? So if you're like a super busy mom, like for me, like I'm home all the time with my son. We don't do daycare. I also run like 2 businesses from home. So I'm really busy. Like look at my kitchen at the pile of dishes. Like I'm really busy. So for me, like I like to come up with practices that are like quick. So I don't have to think like, oh shoot, like I can't clear my energy right now because I don't have 20 minutes. It's like, okay, like, and this is where we come back to what I said, like intention is everything. So if I set the intention that me sitting down and just taking 3 deep breaths while my toddler's screaming, even like, I'm just kidding, he doesn't really scream, but like, you know, maybe I give him a snack and I'm like, okay, I've got like a minute or 2 to myself. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths and that's it. And I set it the intention that that's going to clear my energy for the morning. That's all it has to be. So it doesn't have to be something super complicated. Okay, next, I had to go back to that one. Grounding. I like to ground my energy, especially because I do a lot of work kind of in like the other dimensions, like higher dimensions. So for me, I always have to ground, kind of come back to earth, come back into my body. So grounding can look like, you know, a grounding meditation. If you have time for that, it can look like some deep breaths, like imagining your heart center or your root center, like connecting down into the earth. It can look like, you know, drinking a nice hot cup of tea or hot cacao, like just kind of like taking a moment to like feel into your body, feel into the earth. Grounding can be like, I know you've probably seen on like, you know, Instagram or TikTok or whatever, like people grounding, like walking barefoot on the earth. That's another great one. Sitting outside in the sun, touching trees, like touching nature. There's so many different ways to ground your energy. So that's really important to do daily as well. Another one is protecting your energy. This is like daily, or multiple times a day, ideally. I usually do this like 2 or 3 times a day minimum. But what I do for this is I will kind of, you know, take a moment to cleanse and ground, and then I'll ask my angels of protection to like come to me basically. And I verify that it's them. So I always ask, like whenever I'm calling in any kind of beings, like this is part of protection as well. Whenever I'm calling in any kind of like, you know, angel or spirit guide or anything like that, I always ask them 3 times who they are. So like I'll call in my angels of protection and I say like, are you my angels of protection here for my highest timeline, only of love, light, truth, and compassion? And if I like feel or hear a yes, I ask again twice more. And it's like a universal law that like if you ask 3 times, like they have to reveal themselves. So if it's like a dark entity, they cannot say yes. So just use your judgment with that too and like really feel into that. So yeah, I call my angels of protection forward and I say like, can you create like an impermeable protection around my body, around my aura, around my home, only allowing beings of the highest love, light, truth, and compassion that I welcome into the space to come in. And I just feel into that for a minute, like feeling the protection. There's other ways you can protect your energy as well. So you can like, you don't have to call upon angels. You can like, you know, do a visualization yourself if you want. You can call in Archangel Michael to help you. There's like the purple flame. You can do the eggs, the mirror. There's all kinds. I won't get into like every way to protect yourself. You can send me a message on Instagram if you want to know more. But it's really important to be doing this, especially if you're heading to like a social setting or something like that, where you're going to be around a lot of other people's energies, or if you're going to be doing like a meditation, you know, especially if you're going to be trying to connect with spirit guides or anything like that, you want to make sure you're protecting yourself first. And then the last non-negotiable is cord cutting. So whenever, I won't get too deep into like, you know, what cords are, but essentially, whenever we interact with anybody or anything, there's a cord that's created. So say like you talk to the cashier at the store, or like, you know, you have a child or a husband, or even like a client you work with online. And when we connect with them throughout the day, there's like a cord that's created between the 2 energies, like our energies have connected. So we want to be cutting cords from everyone. And it's not in, I know when I talk to a lot of people about this, I get like, I don't want to cut cords between my baby and me, or I don't want to cut cords between my husband. And like, it's not like, oh, I'm cutting the cord, like get away from me or something like that. Like, it's not a bad thing to cut cords with somebody. It's actually very healthy for you. And it's not, disconnecting you from them in like a harsh way. Like, they don't feel anything on their end. Like, it's just coming back to your own energy and like no longer allowing energy from someone else to like be confused for your own. So like, for example, say you have a friend who's like going through a hard time and you talk to her on the phone and like, she was telling you all about her situation, like, and then you hang up the phone when you're done talking to her, of course. Then that like heavy feeling you get where you're like, oh my gosh, like, especially if you're like an empath, you're like, oh, I just feel what she's going through. Like, I feel so bad for her, like, whatever. Cord cutting is a great way to like cut that feeling off. And it's not to say like, oh, I don't care about you. I don't care what you're going through. I don't want to feel that. Like, but it's saying like, that feeling's actually not mine. So like, it doesn't have to be here. And so I'm just going to cut the cord with that. And it doesn't always have to be negative feelings, but like, and it's not always something you're consciously aware of either. There's like, I feel like I could do another podcast episode on cords, but either way, we want to be cutting cords with everyone we interact with. So ideally it's after you're done interacting with them. But I also realize that like, if you're interacting with like dozens of people every day, like if you're like, maybe you're a cashier or something like that, it's hard. So like, just as often as you can, at least like every night before bed. And you can also cut cords between like, larger things too. So say you are a cashier and you have like hundreds of people come through your checkout line, then you can like cut cords kind of with your job in general. And that kind of cuts cords and just set the intention of like, I'm cutting cords with my job and everyone that I interacted with, coworkers and customers there today. Or if you work on your phone, you can cut cords with your phone or your laptop and everyone you interacted with on there today. Just to make it easier so you're not like, trying to figure out like the 100 people you talked to that day. And so for cord cutting, it gets to be really easy. Like, there are like different meditations you can find online. What I like to do just to make it super quick and easy is just kind of like take a moment, like breathe and visualize like an actual cord between me and whoever, whatever it is. And then just imagine myself cutting it with a pair of scissors and watching them drift away gently, like nothing bad's happening to them. Just allowing them to drift away out of my energy field. And then I imagine that the part of the cord that's left in me, like wherever it was, maybe it's in your leg, maybe it's in your heart, whatever. For me, it's usually in my heart or in like my gut. I just imagine like pulling it out, like you're, pulling a carrot out the ground. And I just like allow that piece of the cord to fall out of my hand and, be transmuted into the earth with love. And then I imagine just like, a gold or a white light filling that spot in my body, like my own light coming back to me. It's only my own energy here. Hopefully that makes sense. That's like a quick synopsis of what a meditation might be like. But I just do kind of like a quick visual with this, usually like 2 minutes or less. And just like, breathe into that. I cut the cord. I'm back to my own energy. And that's it. So energy clearing, grounding, protecting, and cord cutting are ones that I do every single day. And it's usually multiple times a day for all of them. And I just flow with it. Like, I can usually tell now that I'm like, a lot more in touch with my intuition and stuff. I can feel like, okay, I need to cut a cord right now, or I need to clear my energy right now. Like I'm a lot more in tune with that than I used to be. But in the past, it used to be something that I would do at like, scheduled times in the day to make sure I remember. So those are my non-negotiables. And then above and beyond that, it differs greatly day to day. So some of my go-to things are just like meditating. And when I meditate, I actually don't use guided meditations anymore. Like, at least not right now at this point. I used to really like them. And like, honestly, like, yeah, I used to use guided meditations like daily. And like, I used to have like an app on my phone that I really liked. And I would do like, as many meditations as I could while my son was sleeping and like, just, try and get them done. And like, for me, it almost felt like I was just checking them off a list and just kind of like randomly doing stuff and just always being guided with something. And like, at this point in my spiritual journey, I just kind of feel like I needed space from that. And for me, and that's not saying this is like right for anybody else, like if you love guided meditations, that's awesome. And like I still do them sometimes. But for me right now, like I really feel called to just be with my own energy and like do my own different visualizations and, you know, meet up with my spirit guides and my angels. Sometimes I do like go into the Akashic records, if you're familiar with that. If not, message me, I'll explain it all to you. And yeah, I just kind of like to like free flow with it and just like, you know, sometimes it'll be 10 minutes. Sometimes I like do a meditation and like, you know, wake up or whatever you want to call it and look at the clock and it's been like 45 minutes or something. And this is just if I have time while my son's sleeping and I don't have other things to do, then I will have time for this kind of thing. But if I'm really short on time, like day to day, then often meditations aren't really part of anything for me. It's often just like my non-negotiables, or like I find like some time to do like, you know, intuitive movement and dance or something while my son's awake. So like I love to like put on some music and just like move my body, like, you know, dance like no one's watching, like, you know, whatever that means to you. I love to do like little cacao ceremonies. I love to sing. I love to do breath work. Sometimes I actually don't love to do breath work, but I do. I feel like it's really difficult for me, but I like to do it when I'm looking for like a specific type of emotional release. Sometimes I like to do like just some brain dump journaling, what's on my mind. Sometimes I like to pull some oracle cards. I usually do that most days, like sometimes just like one to see like, you know, set the tone for the day, what message wants to come through this morning. Sometimes I do like a whole spread of them and ask questions, or, you know, try and ask for specific guidance around something. Obviously I do a lot of channeling work. So sometimes I just sit with like a piece of paper or my notebook or whatever and just kind of like, you know, ground and clear and all the things, and then just kind of like open up my channel, like what's coming through from my guides. What do they have to say? Do I have some questions I want to ask? That can be something I also take into the Akashic records. So I really just flow with it. And like the biggest piece for me is just like not having something rigid where I feel like I said earlier, like you need to like check off this checkbox to like feel like you did your spiritual dues for the day. But just like getting the basics done, the energy maintenance, like non-negotiables, like keeping my energy like protected and cleared. And that for me is like so crucial to feel good. But then above and beyond that, it's just kind of like flowing with the day. So like in the morning, waking up and saying like, you know, what's present, being aware, right? Like what's present for me today? Like, what am I feeling? Oh, I feel like a little bit, maybe, I feel low on confidence today, or maybe I feel like low motivation, or maybe today I feel like super activated with my creativity, or like whatever it is, and thinking like, okay, how can I work with this energy? So if I'm feeling really activated in something, I'm like, okay, how can I nurture this? So like, you know, if I'm feeling super creative, like what's something creative I can do today? Or if I'm feeling really energized, like how can I move my body in a way that's going to feel really good today? Or, you know, if I'm feeling like really low energy, like how can I nurture myself today? Like maybe I'm gonna make like a hot cacao and just like sit on the couch and, you know, close my eyes, give my son like a snack, or put on a little TV for him so I can have some me time, not ashamed, and just kind of like sit. And sometimes he'll sit with me too, my son, he's like 2.5, and I just like to sit, take some breaths, drink my drink. And that can be a spiritual practice too. So it doesn't always have to be like something super structured, but yeah, it's just whatever you want it to be. So that's a little glimpse of what I do. It's just really taking care of the maintenance, and then anything above and beyond is just, we flow with it. What feels good today? What do I actually feel like doing today? I never like spirituality to be something where it's like, oh, like I don't feel like doing this meditation, but like I should. You know what I mean? Like that's not the vibe. So I love to just tune into like, what is my soul wanting? What is my body wanting today? How can I honor that? And how can I not make it have to be something that it doesn't have to be? Basically, like how can I make spirituality like just something that works for me, instead of like something that like I have to be like following a checklist for, like, you know, all those things. So that's what I have to share today. That's what I do daily, day to day, what my spiritual practices look like. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message on Instagram. I'll link it below. Otherwise, if you have any requests for episodes you'd like to hear me talk about something in the future, questions you have about me and my practices, what I do, or anything related to spirituality, then let me know. And yeah, that's all. That's actually all I have. I felt like I was going to say something else, but that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you love this episode, I would love, and be so grateful for you to leave a review, send me a message, and let me know how much you're loving it. The more reviews and downloads and stuff that I get, the more people I can reach and share my mission and my message with. So I greatly appreciate everyone who takes the time to do that. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.